The hive was never silent. It breathed like a living beast. Walls pulsed with strange light, and the air trembled with the sound of thousands of wings. Deep inside this endless maze sat the throne of the alien queen. She was vast, her body stretching across the black stone floor, crowned with sharp spines that glowed in the darkness. On this day, her roar broke through the hive like thunder. Her sons were gone. The princes, tall, strong, born of her flesh and fire, had vanished without a trace. They were not weak, not helpless. They were heirs of her blood, creatures who could crush armies and tear through steel. Yet now they were missing, and no one in the hive could explain how. The queen's fury shook the walls. Her voice thundered across every chamber. "Find them, find my sons, or the hive will drown in blood." Warriors scattered in panic. Some rushed into the lower tunnels. Others took to the skies above the hive, dark wings slicing through the air. Hunters sniffed the ground, searching for a trail, while shadows leapt across the alien cliffs. Yet hour after hour passed, and still no sign came. The queen's anger burned hotter with each moment. She remembered the day her sons were born. Their first roars had echoed like storms, promising strength that would one day lead her armies. They were not just her children. They were her pride, her future, her claim to unending power. And now they were gone, like dust carried away by the wind. Her massive claws dug deep into the stone. Sparks hissed. Her tail lashed from side to side, breaking pillars as if they were nothing. No servant dared step too close. The queen's eyes, glowing with fire, turned every brave soldier into trembling dust. But fear would not save them. "Do you hear me?" the queen roared. "If they are not returned, I will tear worlds apart. I will burn the skies. I will not rest until my sons are home." The hive shivered at her words. Far below, even the youngest workers froze in silence. The queen's rage was not just sound, it was power. It carried through the walls, through the blood of every alien born in the hive. They felt her pain, her fury, her hunger for revenge. Still, no one knew the truth. Some whispered that enemy hives had stolen the princes. Others feared that humans, the strange creatures of legend, were behind it. The queen crushed these whispers with her voice. "No enemy dares enter my hive," she said. "No rival has power to steal what is mine. Whoever has done this hides in shadows, but shadows cannot hide forever." The queen's eyes closed for a moment. In the darkness of her mind, she reached for her sons. There was a bond between mother and child, stronger than distance, stronger than silence. But now the bond felt strange, blurred, faint, almost hidden. They were alive. She could feel that much. Yet where they rested, she could not see. That mystery only sharpened her fury. At her command, the hive gathered. Thousands of soldiers filled the great chamber, their armor shining like black glass. Hunters knelt, waiting for orders. The queen rose from her throne, her wings unfolding like storm clouds. "My sons are out there," she hissed. "Find them. Search every cave, every mountain, every corner of this cursed land. If they are taken, bring me their captor's head. If they are hidden, tear the world apart until the ground itself speaks their names." The warriors roared in answer. The sound rolled like a wave, shaking dust from the ceiling. But even as they prepared to obey, a strange unease crawled through the hive. The princes were not weak. How could they vanish without a fight? How could even the strongest hunter not catch their scent? Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The queen knew it too. For the first time in countless years, her fury carried a shadow of fear. Her sons were alive, but they were not in her arms. And if they had chosen to leave her, no, that thought she would not accept. They were hers, always hers. The hive swore to bring them back. The warriors took flight, disappearing into the burning sky. The hunters scattered across the land. The queen watched them go, her chest heaving with fury. Yet in the far distance, beyond the reach of her armies, the truth waited. The princes were not chained in some dark prison. They were not hidden by rivals. They were lying peacefully asleep on the chest of a human. And when the queen would learn this truth, her fury would grow into something greater than rage. It would become war. The land outside the hive was harsh and endless. Black cliffs rose like broken teeth. The ground was cracked, dry, and sharp enough to cut skin. Above it, the sky burned with strange colors, storms flashing without sound. In this place, no human was meant to survive, and yet, a human walked there. He was small compared to the creatures that ruled this world. No armor covered him. No weapons shone in his hands. His clothes were simple, torn from long travel, and his face carried the calm of one who had seen too much. He looked fragile, too fragile. Any beast, any hunter could have ended him in a heartbeat, and still he walked. His eyes were steady, watching the horizon. He did not run, he did not hide. His steps were slow, almost peaceful, as though the storms and dangers around him were no threat at all. The people of the hive had heard of humans before, but only as whispers. Some said humans were weak, soft creatures who broke easily. Others claimed humans had strange luck, a power not of muscle or claw, but of will. No one agreed. No one truly knew. This man seemed to carry both truths. His body was weak, but his presence was heavy. Even the air seemed to pause when he passed. Far above, hidden among jagged rocks, alien scouts watched him. Their orders were clear: track every movement, report every step. This human was not ordinary. The princes of the hive had been found near him, and the queen's fury demanded answers. The scouts leaned closer. Their black eyes glowed, sharp and unblinking. They expected to see fear in him, the trembling of prey that senses predators near. But no fear showed on his face, only quiet patience. He stopped near a dead tree, its branches sharp as knives. Slowly he sat down, resting his back against the broken trunk. For a long while he did nothing. He simply breathed, his chest rising and falling. The storm wind howled, but his calm did not break. Then something strange happened. From his chest came the faint sound of breath, but not his own. The scouts froze. Their eyes widened. The princes, the two mighty alien sons of the queen, the terror of the hive, the killers of countless worlds, they were lying on the human's chest, asleep, resting as if he were their cradle, their safe place. Their dark scales glowed faintly, but their sharp claws were relaxed. They breathed softly, like children in a dream. The human did not move them. He simply placed one hand gently over them, as if to shield them from the wind. The scouts trembled. Nothing in the hive's long history had ever shown such a sight. The princes had never lowered their heads before anyone, not even the oldest generals. They were fierce, proud, untouchable. And yet here they were, sleeping like infants against a human. The question rose in every scout's mind. Why? Why would they trust him? Why would they give their safety to a fragile creature who had no power, no armor, no throne? The human's eyes opened slowly. He looked up toward the cliffs, toward the shadows where the scouts hid. He did not speak, but his gaze was heavy. For one heartbeat, the watchers felt as though he saw them clearly, as if no rock or darkness could hide them. Their claws tightened on their spears, but none dared attack. Something about him froze their courage. Something invisible held them back. The storm broke above, lightning striking the horizon, but the human did not flinch. He simply closed his eyes again, his hand resting protectively on the princes. The scouts retreated, whispering in panic. This was not natural. This was not possible. They had to tell the queen what they had seen. Far away, the hive still shook with her fury. When the message reached her, silence fell. For the first time since her sons vanished, she did not roar. She did not move. She listened. The report was simple. The princes sleep on a human's chest. The queen's spines rattled. Her eyes narrowed. At first she thought it was a lie, a coward's trick. But the bond in her blood told her the truth. She could feel her sons safe, calm, alive, and yes, their hearts beat close to that human. A roar built in her throat but died before it left her lips. Anger was easy. Fear was harder, for if her sons had chosen this human willingly, then the hive's throne itself was at risk. Her claws scraped the stone. "Bring him to me," she commanded. "Bring me the human who dares hold my children." But deep inside, another thought whispered, "What if he cannot be taken?" Back on the cliffs, the human opened his eyes once more. He looked at the storming sky, then at the sleeping princes. A faint smile touched his lips. "They will come soon," he whispered softly. Words only the wind could hear, "but I will be ready." The scouts had fled, the hive was stirring, and the queen was preparing for war. Yet the human did not rise, did not run. He simply remained where he was, as if every step of this path had already been written. The land was silent now, save for the storm above. And in that silence, one truth became clear. This human was no ordinary man, he was something else. The scouts returned to the hive with shaking claws. Their voices stumbled as they spoke, and their eyes never rose to meet the queen's gaze. The throne chamber trembled with her presence, her spines glowing like fire. her rage held back only by the thinnest chain of control. "Speak," she demanded. The lead scout knelt, wings folded tight against his back. "My queen, we found them. The princes," the hive gasped as one. The warriors, the hunters, even the smallest workers froze in place. Every ear turned, every breath stopped. The queen leaned forward, her shadow stretching like night. "Where?" The scout swallowed, trembling. "They were alive, safe, but my queen..." His voice cracked. They were sleeping on the chest of a human. The silence that followed was sharper than any blade. For one long moment, the queen said nothing. Her eyes burned, her claws twitched, but her body remained still. Then with a roar that shook the chamber, she smashed the stone floor beneath her. "Lies," she thundered. "My sons bow to no creature. No human can hold them." The scout's body trembled as he pressed his head against the ground. We saw it with our own eyes. They rested on him as if he were their protector. My queen, they were calm like children in the nest. They clung to him, not to each other. Gasps rippled through the hive. Whispers hissed between soldiers. No one dared speak too loudly, but the thought was already alive. The princes had chosen the human. The queen's roar silenced them all. Chosen? Never. No human has such power. Her tail lashed, striking pillars until they shattered. If my sons are with him, then he has stolen them with tricks. He has poisoned their minds. But deep in her chest, the queen felt the bond between herself and her children. The princes were alive, yes. They were not afraid, not in pain. They were content. That truth cut deeper than any enemy's blade. She rose to her full height, wings spreading like a storm. "Bring this human to me. Tear him from the earth if you must. Let him beg for mercy at my throne." The army roared in answer, but unease still lingered. Far away, the human remained where he was. The storm winds had quieted for the night. The two princes still rested on his chest, their scales glowing faintly in the moonlight. Their breathing was steady, calm. The human's hand moved gently over them as though he were a father guarding children. His eyes were closed, but he was not asleep. He listened to the world, the shifting of stone, the whispers in the wind, the faint tremors of soldiers approaching. He knew they were coming. When the first scouts crept closer, their eyes shining in the dark, they expected him to panic. Instead, he opened his eyes slowly, calmly, and looked straight at them. His gaze was steady, heavy, impossible to hold for long. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. His voice was quiet, but it carried, echoing through the rocks as though the air itself obeyed him. The scouts froze. Their spears shook. None dared move closer. The princes stirred faintly but did not wake. They pressed tighter against his chest as if his voice was a shield that kept them safe. The scouts retreated once more, whispering in terror. Back at the hive, the queen prepared for war. The throne chamber filled with warriors, their claws sharp, their wings ready. Generals lined the steps waiting for her command, but before she gave it, a strange stillness touched her. For in her heart she felt her sons again, not through sight, not through sound, but through the bond of blood. They were not prisoners. They were not chained. They were willing. The queen's fury grew colder. If they had chosen the human, if they had given their loyalty to him instead of her, then it was not just theft. It was betrayal. Her roar filled the chamber once more. "Prepare the armies. If this human has bewitched my sons, I will break him. If they follow him by choice..." Her eyes narrowed, glowing like suns. "Then I will destroy him and drag my children home." The hive trembled as the army moved. Claws struck stone, wings filled the skies, and shadows spread across the land. The hunt for the human had begun, but on the cliffs the human did not move. He did not run. He sat calmly, the princes still sleeping against him. He raised his eyes to the storming horizon and whispered, as if he already knew the queen's plan, "They will come, but the choice will not be hers." The discovery of the princes in the arms of a human had shaken the hive to its core. The queen's fury had only grown, but beneath it, a new fear was born. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the human who could command loyalty without force. Fear of what was to come. And as the first army marched toward him, the human closed his eyes once more. The night was silent. The princes slept, and the world held its breath, waiting for the clash that would decide the fate of more than just a hive. The hive had always been alive with sound. Claws striking stone, wings humming in endless rhythm, warriors roaring as one. But tonight the hive shook with something greater. It was not routine. It was not ceremony. It was war. The queen's fury had become command. Her army filled the great chamber, a black sea of warriors stretching as far as the eye could see. Their scales shimmered under the hive's glowing walls, their weapons sharp with fresh poison. Hunters crouched like shadows, their eyes burning with hunger. Above them, flyers filled the air, wings slicing the darkness like blades. The queen stood high upon her throne, her body towering like a mountain. Her spines glowed, her claws scraped the stone, and her eyes blazed with fire. She raised her voice, and every corner of the hive fell silent. "My sons have been taken," she thundered, "by a human, a creature weaker than dust. This insult cannot be forgiven. This shame cannot stand. We will crush him. We will burn the skies. We will bring my children home." The army roared in answer, a sound so loud the walls cracked and dust rained from above. Yet beneath the roar, unease lingered. Every warrior had heard the whispers. The princes had not been bound. They had not been harmed. They had slept peacefully on the human's chest. No one understood what that meant. No one dared speak it aloud, but the thought hung heavy. What if the princes had chosen him? The queen would not allow such doubt. Her tail struck the floor, silencing all thought. "We march at dawn," she commanded. "And when the sun rises, the human will fall." Outside the hive, the land stirred with unnatural power. Armies gathered at the borders, filling valleys and ridges, their shadows stretching for miles. The ground trembled beneath their weight, as though the earth itself feared the queen's wrath. Birds fled into the night, and beasts burrowed deep to escape what was coming. The hive trembled not only from her command, but from the tension of destiny. Far away, the human felt it. He still sat near the broken tree, the princes resting on his chest. Their scales glowed faintly, their small breaths rising and falling in rhythm with his own. He had not moved since the night before, but in his stillness he felt the storm brewing. The ground shook softly. He knew it was not nature. It was an army. Thousands of wings, thousands of claws moving as one. The hive was coming for him. He looked down at the princes. They were still asleep, safe, unaware of the fury that hunted them. His hand rested gently on their backs, as though shielding them from what he knew was near. "They march," he whispered softly. "Your mother comes." The princes stirred faintly but did not wake. Instead, they pressed closer against him, as if they trusted his calm more than the hive's roar. The queen's scouts returned ahead of the army, reporting his location. They spoke of his stillness, his calm, his gaze that saw through shadows. The queen listened, her fury burning brighter. "Enough of this," she roared. "He is no god. He is no king. He is only flesh. And flesh can be broken." But even as she spoke, a shadow of doubt clawed at her. Her bond to her sons pulsed faintly, and she felt their peace. Peace with him, not with her. The hive trembled again, not from war drums, but from the weight of something unseen. Choice. The army marched. Wings darkened the sky. Claws cracked the ground. The hive moved like a storm, endless, unstoppable. Each warrior screamed the queen's name, their loyalty burning like fire. But among them, hidden in silence, some whispered to themselves. Why him? Why a human? Fear spread quietly. Not fear of the queen, not fear of battle. Fear of the unknown. The human who could hold princes without chains, who could face an army without trembling, who could remain calm while the queen herself raged. The hive trembled not only with power, but with doubt. As dawn rose, the first wave of the army reached the cliffs. They saw him there exactly as before, sitting still, resting against the broken tree. The princes lay across his chest, their bodies glowing faintly in the morning light. The human lifted his head. His eyes met the army. He did not move, did not rise, did not run. Instead, he whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear. "So it begins." The warriors froze. His words were small, yet they carried like thunder, reaching every ear, every heart. Some felt their claws shake. Others clenched tighter, as though trying to crush the fear that grew inside them. The queen was still far behind, her massive body moving slower than her army. But her presence could already be felt. Her roar echoed across the sky, shaking the stones loose from the cliffs. The hive trembled, and the human closed his eyes. The valley filled with silence, broken only by the distant beat of the queen's wings. Her shadow spread across the land, vast and terrible. The soldiers roared again, louder this time, forcing courage into their throats. But no matter how loud their roar, the silence that surrounded the human was heavier. It was calm, unbroken, and somehow stronger than war cries. The hive trembled, not from her fury, but from the mystery of him. And as the queen's shadow fell across the land, the princes stirred. Their eyes began to open. The discovery had shaken the hive. The march had shaken the world. But what would happen when the princes chose to rise? The answer was coming, and it would change everything. The queen's army filled the valley like a flood of shadows. Wings darkened the sky, claws struck the earth, and the air shook with roars. At the front stood generals with armor made of bone and steel, their spears dripping with venom. Behind them, endless ranks of warriors waited, their eyes glowing like fire. But the human did not move. He sat as before, back against the broken tree, the two princes still resting across his chest. Their scales shimmered faintly in the rising light, their breath slow and calm. To the hive, they looked like kings asleep before a storm. To the human, they looked like children safe in his arms. The first line of soldiers stepped forward. Their wings spread wide, their spears ready. The ground cracked beneath their weight. The queen's roar echoed from behind them, her voice shaking the mountains. "Take him!" The command rolled through the valley like thunder. But before the army could strike, the human lifted his head. His eyes opened, calm, sharp, unbroken. His hand rested on the princes as though reminding them, "Stay still." Then he spoke. "Do not come closer." The words were soft, almost gentle, but they cut through the roar like a blade. The first wave of soldiers froze. Their spears trembled. Something in his voice carried weight far beyond his body. It was not threat, not begging. It was truth. The queen's roar shook the sky again. "Obey me! Kill him!" The warriors roared back, forcing courage into their throats, and charged. Claws struck stone. Wings whipped the air. Spears shone with poison. The human did not rise. He did not run. Instead, he lifted his hand. A faint light sparked at his fingertips. Not fire, not lightning, something older. It spread like a wave, invisible, yet heavy. The first line of warriors stumbled. Their wings faltered. Their claws slowed as though the air itself had turned thick around them. They could not reach him. The princes stirred, but only pressed closer to his chest, their eyes still closed, their trust unshaken. The human's voice rose again, calm but commanding. "Your queen's anger blinds her. She cannot see what you already feel. You do not serve me because I am strong. You serve me because I protect what even she cannot." The soldiers froze, torn between fear of their queen and the weight of his words. Their bodies shook, their loyalty cracking like stone under pressure. From behind, the queen herself appeared. Her wings spread wide, her spines glowing like fire. Her roar crushed the valley. "You dare speak of protection? You, a human? You are nothing, flesh, weakness, dust." Her shadow swallowed the light. Her eyes locked on him with fire and hate. The human looked back, unshaken. "You call me weak," he said softly. "And yet your sons sleep in my arms, not yours." The words cut through her fury like a blade. The queen's body stiffened. Her claws dug into the ground. For the first time, her rage carried silence. The human's hand moved gently over the princes. A faint glow surrounded them, warm, safe, calm. "They came to me," he said. "Not because I forced them, not because I tricked them. They came because I give them what you never could." The queen's roar returned, louder than before. Lies. But in her chest, the bond she shared with her children trembled. She felt their peace, their trust, their loyalty, not to her, but to him. The truth burned deeper than any blade. The hive trembled. Soldiers shifted in unease. Generals looked to their queen, but none dared speak. The human rose at last. His movements were slow, calm, but when he stood, The valley seemed smaller, as though his presence filled the air. The princes stirred but did not leave him. They clung to his chest as if his very breath was their shield. "You command through fear," he told the queen. "I lead through choice." The queen's eyes blazed with fire. "Choice is weakness. Power is survival." The human shook his head. "No. Power is nothing without those who choose to follow it. Even your sons know this truth." The prince's eyes began to open. They looked upon the queen, their mother, and then turned their gaze back to the human. Their bodies pressed closer to him, their choice clear without words. The hive gasped. Warriors trembled. The queen's fury became silence once more. The human stepped forward, his voice carrying like thunder wrapped in calm. "You fear me, queen, not because I am strong, but because I show your children a path beyond your control. That is my secret. That is humanity's secret. We are fragile, yes, but in our fragility, we learn what strength truly is. We protect, we endure, we choose." The queen's roar shook the valley, but for the first time it did not silence the world. It only revealed her fear. The human stood tall, the princes clinging to him. Behind him the storm clouds broke, light spilling through the sky, and, for the first time in the hive's long history, warriors hesitated. Some lowered their spears. Some stepped back. The queen's army trembled, and the secret of the human had begun to spread. The valley grew silent. The hive's army, once a flood of fury, now stood frozen. Their spears no longer pointed forward, their wings hung half-folded. Unease spread through their ranks like cracks in stone. At the center, the human stood tall. The two princes clung to him, their glowing scales brushing against his chest. He did not raise a weapon. He did not roar. Yet his calm pressed heavier than the queen's fury. Then the ground shook. The queen arrived. Her wings blocked the rising sun, her shadow covering the valley. Her spines blazed with fire, her claws tore the ground, and her roar shook mountains far away. She towered above all, a storm of rage and power. "Human!" she thundered. "You dare hold what is mine! You dare steal my children from my arms! I will crush you until no trace remains!" The army roared with her voice, forcing back their hesitation. Claws struck stone, wings filled the sky. Yet still they waited for her command. The human did not flinch. His eyes met hers with quiet fire. "They are not stolen," he said softly. "They are safe. Safer than they ever were under you." The queen's fury sharpened into something darker. "Safe? I am their mother. My blood is theirs. My hive is theirs. You are nothing but weak flesh." The human's voice rose, calm but strong. "You gave them life, yes, but you rule them with chains. I give them freedom. That is why they chose me." The words struck the queen like blades. She roared again, louder, shattering cliffs, breaking trees, scattering dust across the valley. Soldiers fell to their knees under her cry. Yet the human stood unbroken, his hands steady on the princes' backs. The clash of wills had begun. The queen moved first. Her wings swept forward like storms, her tail lashed with the force of thunder. The ground cracked, the sky split. She struck with all the fury of a world on fire. The human raised his hand. The light returned, not fire, not lightning, but something deeper, older. It spread around him like a shield, unseen yet undeniable. The queen's strike crashed into it and stopped, as though hitting a wall made of stars. The earth shook, but the human did not fall. The princes pressed closer against him, their eyes glowing faintly now. Their bond to him grew stronger with every heartbeat. The queen snarled, "Tricks! You hide behind tricks." "No," the human answered. "I stand in truth." She struck again, harder. Claws slashed, wings tore. Her roar carried storms. Yet every blow met the same unseen force, breaking like waves on stone. The human's eyes glowed faintly now, but his voice remained calm. "You believe power is fear, but fear only chains. True strength is choice, and even your sons know this truth." The princes opened their eyes fully at last. They looked upon their mother, her towering form, her glowing rage. Then they turned back to the human, and they chose. Both pressed their foreheads against his chest, their trust complete. The hive gasped. Soldiers dropped their weapons, generals froze, even the wind seemed to pause. The queen's fury twisted into something she had never known. Fear. Why? She roared, her voice cracking the air. Why him? He is nothing. The human stepped forward, his calm unbroken, his voice heavy as thunder. Because I am nothing. That is the secret you cannot understand. You are mighty, yes. You rule through fear, yes. But I need no throne, no chains, no roar. I only need to protect, and those who feel that protection choose me freely. That is what it means to be human. His words carried through the valley, echoing inside every warrior's chest. Many lowered their heads, some fell to their knees. The queen's will cracked as her army felt another power rising. Choice. The queen roared again, desperate now. She lunged forward, wings spread, claws ready to tear him apart. The human did not move. The princes leapt before him. Their bodies glowed brighter than ever, their roar joining his silence. The queen stopped mid-strike, her own sons defying her. Her eyes widened. Her claws trembled. For the first time in her reign she felt powerless. The clash of wills was not one of claws against flesh. It was one of hearts against fear, choice against chains. And the queen was losing. The valley trembled with silence. The human's voice rose one final time. Your sons are not lost, queen, they are found, but not as princes of fear. They are princes of choice. They chose me, not because I demanded it, but because I let them be free. The princes stood tall now beside him, no longer hiding, no longer asleep. Their eyes glowed with the same strange light as his. The army of the hive knelt, not to the queen, not to the throne, but to the truth they felt in his words. The queen roared, but her roar no longer ruled the valley. Her wings shook, her claws scraped the ground, but her will faltered. The human stepped closer, his calm steady, his secret clear. The clash of wills was decided. The queen had power, but the human had loyalty, and in the end, loyalty was stronger than fear. The valley was still. The queen's roar had faded into silence, leaving only the sound of wind brushing across stone. Her massive wings drooped, her claws shook, and her blazing eyes stared in disbelief. For the first time in her reign, her hive no longer stood at her back. They knelt, not to her, to him, the human. The princes stood tall now, no longer asleep, no longer clinging. They were awake, alive, and unafraid. Their glowing eyes turned toward their mother. For a heartbeat, silence stretched, heavy as a mountain. Then both stepped forward, not to her throne, not to her shadow, but to the side of the human. The queen's breath caught. The bond of blood screamed inside her. They had chosen. Why? She whispered, her thunderous voice cracking. Why him? He has no throne, no hive, no crown. The human stepped forward, his calm unbroken. The princes stood beside him like guardians, their trust clear for all to see. He raised his voice, not loud, but carrying through the valley like it belonged to the air itself. Because crowns are chains, thrones are cages. They do not need power to feel safe. They need trust, and I give them what you never could. The queen trembled. She looked at her sons, her pride, her future, and for the first time she saw not warriors, not heirs, but children who wanted more than fear. The hive murmured. Soldiers dropped their spears. Hunters folded their wings, generals lowered their heads. The choice of the princes had become the choice of the hive. The queen, once unshakable, stood alone in her fury. Her spines dimmed. Her roar weakened. Her claws pressed deep into the earth, not with strength, but with desperation. They are mine, she hissed. My blood, my flesh. I gave them life. The human's eyes softened. Yes, you gave them life. But life is not ownership. Life is choice. And now they choose a path beyond you. The princes bowed their heads toward him, their loyalty undeniable. The queen's breath came heavy. The hive's eyes turned away from her and toward him. The throne trembled. Not from her rage, but from her fading rule. The human raised his hand. Light flowed, not fire, not lightning, but something deeper. It spread across the valley, touching the soldiers, the hunters, even the youngest workers hidden far below the hive. It was warmth, safety, freedom, the kind of power that did not command, but invited. This is humanity's gift, he said. We are fragile, yes. Small, yes. But in that weakness, we learn what matters most. To protect, to endure, to choose. That is why your sons came to me. Not because I forced them, but because I let them be free. The hive listened. The queen listened. And though her pride screamed, her bond told her the truth. Her sons were at peace. They had never been safer. The princes stepped forward once more. One placed a clawed hand on the human's shoulder. The other bowed his head. Their voices rose together, clear and sharp, echoing through the valley. We choose him. The world held its breath. The queen's body shook. Rage burned in her chest, but behind it lay something worse. Sorrow. Her sons had chosen another, and nothing, no roar, no claw, no army could undo it. She looked at them one last time. Her spines dimmed fully. Her wings lowered, and her roar broke into silence. The queen turned away, her shadow shrinking as she moved back toward the hive. The hive followed, not out of loyalty to her, but out of confusion, torn between two worlds. Yet all of them knew the truth. The old rule had ended. Something new had begun. The human stood still, the princes beside him. His eyes watched the horizon as the queen vanished into distance. The valley was quiet now. No roars, no armies, no war. Only silence and the weight of what had changed. The princes looked at him. "What now?" they asked. He smiled faintly, his voice soft, steady. "Now you learn what it means to be free, not as princes of fear, not as heirs of chains, but as brothers of choice. And together we will show the stars a new path." The hive trembled, not with rage, but with possibility, and so it was revealed. The queen's fury had shaken worlds, but the truth of one human had changed them. Humans were small. Humans were fragile, but in their fragility lived a power no roar could ever crush, the power of choice.